there, welcome back to Limabean Living. In today's video, we are getting some nesting done by actually getting some baking done. Now, a number of days ago, I had tons of carrots that I needed to use up, and so I baked a bunch of carrot cake. I think it was like a triple batch. And I've shared this recipe before on my channel. I will make sure to link the recipe video up above and down below in the description box. But I stuck those cakes, cupcakes, and a little sheet pan cake that I cut out little circles from. I stuck them in the freezer and tucked them away until I was ready to find the time to make the frosting. Now you might be asking yourself, like, what does this have to do with nesting? Well, for one, I don't want cakes just frozen without frosting in my freezer, sitting there for months because I never got around to making frosting. And two, shortly after little baby boy is born, we do hope to get him baptized like within a week or 2 weeks. And if we do have some type of celebration, it would be nice to have some type of treats to offer our guests. Juan's birthday is on Thanksgiving, and so, we'll probably be celebrating him in some way, so having some type of cake might be useful. And on top of that, we are hoping on Thanksgiving also to visit with some family in memory of my aunt who passed away a few months ago. And while I'm sure many people would understand if I showed up, empty-handed except for my baby in my arms, I would like to, be able to bring something if possible. So that's why I was like, let's go ahead and take care of this before the baby comes so that I have less to worry about when I actually want to use this stuff. And I did make a last-minute decision to use one of these cakes, and you'll see me preparing it later, to bring to like a little Halloween party for one of our family members. So it was actually, I was able to use one of these cakes a lot sooner than I thought I would. But anyways, I rolled up some of this frosting in saran wrap just so it doesn't start to dry out, and this technique makes putting it in a piping bag super easy. And we're going to start by just piping on the frosting on the cupcakes, and then using this really cute plastic kind of push pop container that I got a bunch off of Amazon, I believe, a long time ago, with the hopes of doing this someday. And I'm finally getting around to, making these little cake push pops. So these are actually the reason why I made a sheet cake when I was making the carrot cakes, and I used a little tiny circular cutter to cut out circles of this cake that were small enough to fit in this little push pop mold. And we're just going to be layering frosting cake, however many times they fit into this little container and then putting on the cap. And then I will be refreezing these until I find the perfect, event, whether it's for the baptism or for Thanksgiving or for Juan's birthday or, whatever contribution that I can bring these to. They're going to be ready and frozen, and then they'll defrost really easily and just be an individual serving of carrot cake. So I also had all of the scraps from cutting out the circles of the carrot cake, and I really didn't want to waste them. And I figured that, the concept of cake frosting, that layering would still work out pretty well if I just use the scraps. So we're going to be using the scraps to also make just a couple more of these little cake push pops. So we're going to move on to one of the larger cakes that I made. I'm just dumping out the frosting that I rolled up. Again, I kind of rolled it up to also help make sure that it doesn't start to firm up, being exposed to the air and all. But I did, a semi-thin layer of frosting on top of the cake. And then since I had my piping bag out, I figured I would just do a cute little rim around the edges. And I tossed that back in the freezer, even though it seemed a little bit plain to me. Then I took out our larger cake of the two and used up the rest of the frosting that I had prepared on top. This was a very thin layer, and I knew that it was not going to be enough. So we're going to be addressing this a little bit later in the video. But by this time, it was pretty late. I was ready for bed, and I just figured I would do some more on my to-do list the next day. To be honest, I wanted to get a lot more done. I wanted to get some organizing done, some tidying. There's still a lot that I need to do in order to feel like I've fully nested and gotten ready for this baby. But on this day, one of the only thing I was able to get done from my list was to make some banana bread. So I've also shared this recipe on my channel before. I will try to link any videos related to the banana bread recipe as well. But here I am doing something a little bit different. I am milling my own soft white wheat flour just because it is healthier than using the store-bought flour. And I know that postpartum I am going to try my best to make the healthiest choices possible. And so knowing that I have this banana bread tucked away in the freezer later on to pull out for breakfasts, for just not only for myself, but for my family, will give me some peace of mind so that I know that they're not, my kids just aren't eating cereal all the time or something like that. At least they're going to have some type of healthy bread. So as a last minute decision, I was making some sourdough just, for basic home use on the same day. And I had some extra sourdough starter that I wanted to use up a little bit more of. So I threw some in this batter just to kind of use it up and threw the rest of it in the fridge. And then we are going to be baking this. Now I've made this recipe using the freshly milled soft white wheat flour, and I want to say like the flavor is pretty much spot on to what I remember it being when I use store-bought all-purpose flour. The texture is a little bit more grainy, at least it was with my previous mill. I haven't tried a slice from this loaf yet, but that is probably because there is more fiber in this bread because we are using the whole grain. And honestly, that is a very small little switch that I'm willing to make to feel less guilty enjoying this treat. But while that bread was cooling in the pan for a little bit, I did whip up a little bit less than a recipe's worth of frosting, and I figured I would give the larger cakes just some final little touches. So of the two cakes, I took the smaller one that had the nice thick rim of frosting around it, and I piped on a little spider web, and eventually I did make like a little spider out of frosting and put it on top. And we ended up bringing that cake to the little family Halloween party. It was a hit, and it was very delicious. With the remaining frosting, I'm doing one more little coat on top of the larger of the cakes. And I still had some frosting in my piping bag, and so I initially piped on like a cute little rim of little dots around the perimeter of the cake. And then I piped on the word celebrate because I figured that would kind of cover all possible bases, you know, like we're gonna be covered no matter what if I just use this word instead of trying to write happy birthday or, you know, some other type of phrase. And I still had frosting left, so I just put some polka dots on the cake because, you know, who wouldn't love a little bit more frosting? But we're gonna see the inside of the bread after it cooled. I sliced it up and wrapped it in foil, tucked it in the freezer, and called it a day. I'd like to thank you guys for joining along as I kind of unconventionally nest for this third baby of mine. Please continue to keep me in your prayers. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Woohoo! You've made it to the end of the video. If you didn't know already, every Monday and Friday you can find motherhood and lifestyle content on this channel. And since us moms have to do it all, that may mean yummy recipes, easy DIYs, mom hacks, cleaning and organization, or just a combo of everything. Please know that you are loved and you are made for greatness, and I will catch you in the next one.